Hello, everyone. This is Marilyn Surber. Welcome to How Tenstreet Safety Management Makes Your Job Easier, your one-stop interconnected safety solution. I am so excited to talk to everyone today about all the cool things we've been working on with safety. I'm joined with Molly Vidler from our marketing team and also Elizabeth Sontag, who's going to do an amazing demo for us later. A few people are still logging in, and so we'll just cover a couple of housekeeping items. The webinar today is being recorded, and so you will receive a copy of this in your inbox in the next 24 hours after the webinar is ended. So no worries if you have to hop off early, or if you can't give it your full attention right now, you'll definitely get the recording. We also want to make sure you get the most out of this webinar, so please feel free to ask questions. There's a question section and also a chat section. You can put your questions in there at any time, and we will be taking them at the end or throughout the program if it's appropriate. I did also want everyone to know we are here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and there is a severe thunderstorm warning right now, and so we are holding out hope that we will not have any technical difficulties, but if we do, we will power through it unless it becomes something that we can't deal with anymore, but didn't want anybody to be taken off guard. So thank you everyone again for joining us today. Molly, if we'll go ahead and go on to the next slide, and we'll go through our agenda. So what are we going to be talking about today? We are going to be talking about safety management today. What does safety management today look like? And what does that look like with Tenstreet? How do you build a valid and defensible safety program with Tenstreet? How do you engage drivers in safety management using Driver Pulse? What problem are we solving with Tenstreet's safety management solution? You're going to see an amazing demo from Elizabeth Sontag, and then definitely have some time for some questioning and answering. Next slide, Molly. So what does safety management look like today? So you see these pictures as kind of like, okay, you have things in a filing cabinet or boxes somewhere. You have a bunch of different systems. You're logging into systems. You're getting things from drivers off the truck, right? So when an event happens, you're working with drivers. You're waiting for them to send you pictures and police reports. You might be manually logging the information into a couple of different places, logging into your telematics platform, going back through driver files. Maybe you're going through boxes of paper, right? Then you're having to go back and manually enter those details. And then how do you link those things? How do you make sure that no pieces of data get lost if that's your process? How do you avoid system fatigue, right? And beyond the system fatigue is like, what mistakes are you making as a result of that fatigue? Or what are you missing? Or what steps are not happening because you just don't have visibility and you can't link everything, right? So if this is what your process looks like today, you're manually entering in your CSA stuff, logging into telematics, getting faxes from drivers, looking at past events and who knows how many different places, reviewing previous training, and then adding additional deferred data. And you might be doing that in several different places, and you're certainly getting information from several different places, right, to be able to combine it there into that safety solution. And so that's just kind of a mess, and it lends itself to error, and it lends itself to missing steps. Next slide, please, Molly. And that is why what we have done with Tenstreet is created an interconnected safety management solution for you to help you manage the safety of your driver throughout the entire life cycle of a driver. At Tenstreet, we really do pride ourselves in being able to help you manage the entire life cycle of the driver, from the marketing and recruiting process all the way through to post-hire in safety and engagement, right? And so let's talk about how our unique interconnected safety management solution is going to help you do that with Tenstreet, right? So we're going to take that framework and simplify your world, right? We're going to solve the problem with a single point of entry and consolidation for you, giving you total visibility into a full driver's history. That's really important because throughout the life cycle of your driver, there's many times where you might need to pick up the phone to coach and counsel a driver. to try to retain a driver, to hire a driver, to do all of these different things. And the more information and data points you can have on that driver during that phone call, at whatever stage of the life cycle it is, the better that interaction is going to be, right? And so you're going to start with gathering, right? You're using the power of driver pulse to gather information on your drivers. During the recruiting and onboarding phases, that's all that recruiting and onboarding information, right? It's allowing you to gather all the information that you need to make a compliant decision about hiring. Then when we move into safety, what that gathering is going to look like is you're going to have a direct CSA integration, right? You have a direct clearinghouse integration. You have a direct DQF integration. You have telematics integrations into your safety management dashboard in Tenstreet, which allows you to gather all of the different data points on a driver in one system, right? So you can view not only what accidents did they come to you with on their PSP, but you can also view their current CSA violations right in that same place, right? And then you can evaluate right in the same place. You can take the gathered set of information about an event, allow your safety managers a good way to look at all of the information on a driver and then decide what do they need to do next, right? Does the driver need to be terminated? Do they need to be routed in for training or counseling? Do you just need to assign some online training? And then you can act with all the facts on the table. You've gathered everything, you've evaluated. Now, in one system, you can act on that information. You can assign training, you can send a message to a driver, you can call the driver, all right there from your dashboard. And then the final stage is you need to close that loop, right? The real world is messy and things usually happen in varying sequences. Because each of the 3 steps is decoupled, the safety management throughout the whole life cycle allows you to go back and connect these things and connect all these different data points and act and gather and have it all in one place and really close that loop and reduce the mess, right? And this is so, so important, right? So what are we doing here? We're at Tenstreet, we're leveraging the data in the recruiting and onboarding system to provide the driver's event and training history, right? You're seeing that whole picture of a driver. You're using your telematics insights and CSA data into the same platform, and you're automatically linking those events, right? And so you can view them in a really concise manner. You're using Pulse to share documents and communicate easily with the driver, again, throughout that whole life cycle. And that's really great for the driver as well. They begin to understand, oh, this is how I'm going to communicate with my company, right? From the recruiting process all the way through to the post-hire process. And you can use automation to make sure that things happen every single time and that it's measurable and visible. Next slide, Molly. And the reason that we want to do this is because we are building a valid and defensible safety program, right? Over the last 5 years, the average settlement for an FMCSA non-compliance case hits carriers at an average of $7,000, while out-of-control nuclear verdicts rose from $2 million to $22 million in just 10 years. So we know it costs money, right? And so we know we need to protect ourselves. So to reduce costs and protect your company from these types of risks, you have to have full visibility into a driver's entire history, not just the limited window for which he's been driving for you. Being able to link every piece together and have automated processes and procedures in place when reportable safety events occur is essential to a valid, defensible training program, one that promises fewer incidents per mile and lower insurance premiums, and one that will stand on its own should you ever end up in court. Next slide, please, Molly. A key piece of that program is safety management and driver pulse, right? We need to be able to meet drivers where they are and where they live. We can only have so many calls to actions for them. We can only ask them to go to so many places and send us information, right? And we know that 75% of drivers are already using driver pulse. That allows you to provide one app for recruiting, onboarding, retention, and safety management. And drivers can easily share reports, pictures, and documents with you throughout their entire life cycle. And carriers can easily assign training, conduct virtual coaching, and communicate with drivers. Next slide, please, Molly. All of this allows you to, again, gather, evaluate, act, and close the loop. You may not know you're doing these things, but you are doing these things. Make it easier on yourself in an interconnected system where everything is in one place, and automation provides a path to managing these things considerably and with greater ease. Gather using the power of Pulse, telematics integrations, CSA, and express accident and incident entry. We're able to gather all the relevant safety data about safety events all into one place. Evaluate. We take the gathered set of information about an event and allow safety managers in a good way to evaluate in light of other information about the driver, right? How they need to handle that driver. And with all of the facts on the table, they can act and decide what they need to do and then close the loop, right? In the real world of a messy things happening and lots of things flying at you, right? Have one place where you can gather, evaluate, act, and know that you've closed the loop every single time. Now, Elizabeth is going to now show us what that system looks like.
All right, great. I'm gonna share my screen. Just give us 1 second to make the switch. I am showing the dashboard. Marilyn, are you able to see the dashboard?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to walk you through a demo of the new safety management options, and we're going to kind of follow the gather, evaluate, take action, close the loop. So with gather, we're going to use the power of Pulse. If you have a telematics integration, if you're using CSA, also express accidents and incidents entries, and being able to gather all of that data. But also on top of that, you're going to have access to pre-hire information. So you can then look at information that Andy may have disclosed on their application or that they may have come with before they were hired. Then we're going to talk about evaluating. So we're going to gather all of that information in one place, give you a one-stop shop to be able to look at DQF. How many accidents have they had? How many incidents? What kind of training have they completed? And you can view their whole safety record in one place, even that stuff that came from the recruiting side. So all of that in one place to be able to evaluate and then decide what action you want to take. So we've gathered all the information. We're going to take a look at it. We're going to look at it and decide what training the driver needs, if they need coaching documents or conversations, how many points they have based on events, who do we need to notify in the company, and using all of that stuff with the power of workflow to take that action. And then again, closing that loop. You know, a CSA event may come in a couple of days later, and you may want to compare that to the information that you have. And so you're able to look at the information that the driver submitted via Pulse, any kind of police reports, any kind of reporting that's come in, and be able to take a look at that. Also, repair estimates. Maybe you want to look at the repair estimates, make sure that those claims have been paid, make sure that the invoices have been paid. So really kind of taking all that information and being able to close the loop. So I'm going to start today, and we're going to talk about our friend Andy Anderson. And Andy has called us to let us know that Andy has ran over a mailbox. So what I'm going to do is, Andy's in our system as hired. Part of this new system is that you do get a new safety management view. So that view pulls everything into one place so we can see a summary of all the information that has been entered in for Andy. We can see any CSA information, their hire date, how long have they been employed with us, the number of accidents, incidents, violations, and their DQF summary. So we have all of that information available to us. But we want to enter in the accident for Andy. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on Update Info. And when we click on Update Info, because Andy hasn't been employed with us for more than 30 days, we can see that we have a pre-hire option, which is the update info that we all have used for years to add stuff to drivers before they're hired. But now we have a post-hire update info. And when I click into this, it's going to give me some post-hire information. So I can update Andy's information, such as their personal information, if they have a different CDL number, driver's license that needs to be updated. I can also add in any accidents, incidents, or violations. So we're going to go ahead and log in our accident. We're going to click on the Add New Accident and enter in the date of the accident type, And then we're going to put some details in here about where did this happen. So we're going to go for Main Street. It was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And then we can answer some additional questions. So was it a hazmat? Was it in a commercial? Were they at fault? Did they have to have it towed? Was the accident preventable? Was it DOT recordable? And were they ticketed? And then I can also add points here. So I can say for mailbox violations, for backing over a mailbox, a backing incident, they get 2 points for that. I'm going to go ahead and put this in as an open status, and statuses can be customized so that they can walk through the process to get them kind of through your process that's appropriate for any accident or incident or violation that's logged in the system. And then I'm going to put a description in. I'm going to say we backed into the mailbox. I'm going to add my accident, and now it's logged here, and I'm going to go ahead and finalize the changes. Now this takes me right back to my subject view for safety management. So again, now I can see the accident has been added. We went from 3 to 4, and I can now manage that accident. So now it's logged into the system, and I'm going to start to gather my information from Andy. I'm going to go over to the menu and go into events, and this is going to give me a good view of any pre-hire events. Then it tells me when Andy was hired, and then any post-hire events that were added in. So now I can go in and I'm going to work this accident. So I'm going to click on the accident, and it's going to open up the event details for me. This is going to show me everything that we've entered in. So we've got the type of accident, Andy's information, we've got a map of where it happened, how many points and where it happened, all of that information in one place. But to get us started, I need to get copies of our picture of the accident scene photo from Andy. So I'm going to go into my linked events and go to documents and add documents. And here I have all 3 of our current document options. I've got documents, add documents, and pulse documents. So I'm going to go into pulse documents, and I'm going to make a request to Andy and ask that they please send photo of the mailbox, and go ahead and send that request. Now that's going to buzz Andy's phone immediately. So Andy's going to get a notice that says, hey, I need a copy of that mailbox. Can you please send it my way? So you can use Pulse to go ahead and open that up. They can take a picture of that, and they can send it right back over to you, so then it's all done within the system. And like Marilyn said, about 75% of drivers do use Pulse or do have it on their phone. If they don't use Pulse, they can still use the web version of Pulse and have the ability to send this over. So once Andy sends it over, it's going to come in my documents to be filed. And I'll be able to preview that document, and it's going to open it up for me so I can see the mailbox that Andy hit. And then I can go back over and I can file this appropriately. So I'm going to go to my accident supporting documents, and I'm going to file it as an accident scene, and I'm going to save this document. And that's going to file this into it. So I'm going to link it to my event. Here is my event. Now that is successfully linked to my accident. So I can come in here and I've got my mailbox photo, and maybe I need to also gather any kind of estimate repairs or anything that may be needed for that. So I can go into add a document, again back into my categories, which can be customized. I'm going to go ahead and say I need to do a repair estimate. I've got one handy, so I'm going to bring it in and drop it and save that document. And that will also save that and upload that into this accident. So as I'm gathering my information, I can upload information in as it comes. I can take my information, add it to my accident, and then when I go back into my event details, I can see here my repair estimate has come in, and my other documents that I add in will be here. Now, once I've done that, maybe a few minutes later or maybe before, a telematics event comes in. You know, Andy backed into the mailbox, it triggered the camera, so I need to link that telematics event as well. I can click on Link Telematics Event, and it will show me all of the events. I can pick the correct one and then click Link, and that's going to save that telematics event right to this event details. I can play the video and be able to preview that information, so if I need to review it, I can come in and review the accident and watch that. Same with CSA. If you're using CSA events, then you can come in and you can click on any CSA information, and it will show you all of the CSA events assigned to Andy. I can then link those to that event as well, and here I'll have all 3 things linked. I'll have all my telematics events, any CSA events, and any documents that need to be attached. So I've kind of gone in and gathered all of my information, and now I have it in one place for Andy's accident. My next step is I want to evaluate everything. So now that I've gathered everything, I want to take a look at everything that Andy has. I want to see, is this a one-off thing for Andy? Did they just accidentally back into a mailbox? Or is this a continuous thing that we see for Andy? Are we seeing that they have tons of accidents and incidents? So I can go into the summary view. And when I'm in the summary view, it's going to load the history for me. So I can really kind of dig in and see if there's a pattern or if there's any additional details that I need to see. Seeing the CSA information, the total points for any accidents, incidents, and violations, and as well as how compliant are they with DQF. And if I need to drill in over in my menu, I can click into CSA to view all of that information. So I can see any crashes, and I'm able to drill into those as well. I can go to my events to see all of my accidents and incidents, what's post-hire, what's pre-hire, are there trying to identify if there are any patterns. I can go into my driver task to see any training that has been completed, and then also review all telematics events that may have occurred with Andy in the past. I can go in and preview all of those videos and see that information. So really kind of being able to take a really wide view of everything that's happened with Andy and giving you a view of everything like a plaintiff's attorney would have. They would have all the summary of everything that's occurred with Andy, accident and incident wise, all that history in one place. So it gives you a good place to kind of take that. Now, if I have decided, I've gathered my information, I've evaluated my information, and now I need to have some coaching conversations with Andy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go back into my event. And when I go back into my event, I'm going to call Andy and have a coaching session with him. My next step is that I want to log that coaching session. And so I can go down into my process, and I'm going to click on my safety warning acknowledgement. When I start that process, it's going to open up as a form. I'm going to be able to fill out this form. It populates Andy's information, and then we can talk about, we talked about backing safety, and also warned also talked about the next incident could result in termination. Okay, and then I'm going to be as the safety manager, and I'm going to go ahead and sign my name and save this. And then I'm going to finish it, and it's going to send that to Andy for Andy to acknowledge that information and also send that back into the system so it too can be logged with this accident. Because Andy had a backing violation, I'm going to go ahead and schedule a safe backing training as well. So I'm going to start that process, and that's going to send that safe backing training to Andy. So then we can kind of watch Andy to make sure that they are completing those tasks that need to be completed. So we've gathered the information, we've evaluated the information, we've also acted on that information. And we have the history of that information down below. So we can see when any processes have been ran. We can also add notes if we are waiting on police report. We can save those notes so that we can look back at any time and kind of know, oh, what are we needing to do to be able to complete this information? So again, gathering everything in one place. And so now when I go back out and I look at my driver task, I can monitor to see, has Andy completed the backing training? Has Andy completed the safety warning acknowledgement? And so I can kind of review that information to see what has been completed or what's outstanding that is a driver task that needs to be done. All right, so next, what we're going to look at is we're going to look at closing the loop. So maybe a few days later, you have a CSA event that comes into the system, and you want to review that information. So you can go back to your event, and you can kind of dive in and make sure that all of your data is here for telematics. You can link your CSA event and review those documents. And then you can take a look at it, make sure that everything matches and is correct and logged into the CSA, or everything that was logged in the CSA matches what you have on your side as well. Also checking, making sure that you have the repair estimates from the mailbox you've got everything that needs to be completed for that claim to be paid, and then you're able to just kind of close that loop, making sure that everything is there. Again, statuses here are customizable so that they can help you to stay on track as well. So you can move this through the process of different events that you would need to complete as you're working through those accidents, incidents, and violations. All right, so we have a couple of tools too to help you out. So as you're managing the drivers and you're managing any kind of accidents, incidents, and violations that come into the system, you can leverage the tools that are in safety management. So when you go to tools, then safety management, you're going to have the option of a new report that's called events. And what events gives you the ability to do is see all open events across your fleet. So you can come in here and you can use the filters. If you're just wanting to look at accidents, incidents, or violations specifically, then you can review that. Or you can leave the filters open. You can select everything, the statuses, and the date range. These are sticky preferences, so they do stick. So the next time you come in, that information is there. And this gives me a way to kind of look at all of the open accidents, all of the different accidents, incidents, and different statuses. It shows me the type of the event, who the subject is, what the status is, the date that it occurred, the number of documents that have been added, and also the number of processes that have been ran for that specific accident. So just knowing that, you know, an accident isn't something that is wrapped up in just a few minutes. It takes several weeks to gather all of that information and get all of that data in one place. So this kind of helps you to manage all of those accidents across the board in one place so that you can look at what's open, know kind of what you're needing to do for each one of those, and keep on track of those, and keep on top of those to know what's still pending. And then maybe you receive a repair notice and you need to go in and update that. Then you can click into any of the drivers here, and it will allow you to open up their subject view, and you can go into safety management and go right into the event to upload any documents that come in as well. So really allowing you to close that loop and to have that information. All right, so now we come around full circle and we get a call the next day, and we get a call from our friend Andy, and Andy has hit another mailbox. And so we have to go in and go ahead and log another accident. So we can go into events and we can review the information, and then we can add another accident right in the view. So we can go in and add an additional accident, log the information for the mailbox, have all of that data in one place. We can review again our information to see what's our next step with Andy. And because we told Andy, you know, if it happens again, we're going to have to terminate you. And so we have made the decision to terminate Andy's employment. What we can do is a new feature is that when you terminate a driver in the system, and if you use Exchange to respond to any employment verifications, this will allow you to go in and create a stored response. So if I go in the system and I have access to the authorize a response or provide a response, I can go ahead and mark the status to terminated. And when I mark the status to terminated, it pops up and it says, hey, would you like to create an Exchange stored response? And when I say yes to that, it opens up the stored response form and populates the information in for me. So I can see I've got Andy's personal information, and then as I scroll down, it pulls over the accidents, incidents, or the accidents from the post-hire information that we had just entered in. So now it's simple to get that information over to Exchange. You can complete the other fields that you would like for actual service periods. So I can say, when was Andy hired and when were they terminated? They were terminated in 2021. And then I can fill in the additional fields here and go ahead and submit the response. And that will submit that, and I can close out of that, and I've got my stored response entered in for that. So the next time Andy goes and applies for a position, I already have that stored response entered in, and it's populated that information to make it simple to get that over to Exchange so you're ready to complete any employment verifications coming in. All right, so just recapping, I know we talked about a lot today. We covered a lot of ground. This new safety functionality gives us the ability to gather, evaluate, act, and close the loop. We know that in a day in life safety, everyone's getting pulled in many directions and lots of interruptions. And this tool set gives you an easier way to go in and manage your daily work, and using the workflow and notifications, reports, and any third-party integrations that you may have as well, pulling that all into one place to give you a one-stop shop to be able to review, to be able to look at, and to be able to process any kind of actions that happen post-hire for any drivers. So we are super, super excited about this, and this is a new process for us. And so the introductory kind of rollout plan for this is that we will have introductory pricing for anyone that attends this webinar. You'll be eligible for that pricing if you adopt and go live with this product before December 1st. Now, another exciting part is that some of the core parts of this functionality is going to be free for clients. So if you're not using DQF or safety as a part of this, you can still reach out to your advisors if you're interested, and they can give you some additional details and go over the different pricing options that you would have if this is something that you're interested in. Okay. All right. I am going to open it up for any questions that you guys may have.
Thanks, Elizabeth. We have a lot of questions that have come in, and thanks for that amazing demo. It's really, I think, life-changing when I think about my time spent in safety at a carrier. The ability to have all this information in one place and have that be a place we can access it at any time, that's a big deal too. In my experience, most of the time, bad accidents aren't happening at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. And so then you've got everything right at your fingertips instead of, having to go out into the office somewhere. So let's talk about our integrations. So there's been a few questions in here about integrations, both training integrations and telematics integrations. So we're currently integrated on the telematics side with some ELD and camera providers. Those current integration partners are Keep Truckin', Geotab, Samsara, and Lytix. We also are already in discussions with Omnitrack's Smart Drive, Platform Science, and Netrodyne. And so if you, we are interested in integrating with all of those partners. And so if you're interested in the service and we're not already integrated with your provider, please get that information over to your advisor or to Elizabeth or I, and we will engage those vendors. On the training side, we are integrated with, we have our own training LMS, but we are integrated with Infinity. And we are also integrated with Carrier's Edge. And we did have a specific question about JJ Keller, and we are able to host JJ Keller's content in our dashboard. They can give you permission for that. We can host it in our LMS. So let's go on to some other questions. Elizabeth, do you have anything to add to those?
I think you covered those. I see there is a question about PreHire.
Okay.
PreHire events in the system. And so the PreHire events are done from application. So when the driver submits an application and they disclose any kind of accidents, incidents, or as you're in the recruiting process and you are adding or updating info and adding any incidents, accidents, violations that you may find through that process, that is what pulls over the PreHire events for the drivers in the view.
Cool. And then there was also a question about uploading videos afterwards. And you can go back and add videos or documents into the file afterward. It doesn't have to be added at the time. You can link it, and you can link it from other files. So it doesn't just have to be the video that directly came in from the telematics system.
And one thing I will add to that as well is that through the system, whenever you have, if you're using telematics or CSA and you're using those tools to manage your drivers as well, you can create events right from those tools. So you don't have to come into the safety management view. If you're in CSA and you see an event, you can go in and you can link that event to a driver and create immediately an accident, incident, or violation that's connected to that driver. And then you can go into the safety management view and be able to work that, adding all of your documents, any photos, or anything that you need to upload. So there's a couple of different places that you're able to link those events and kind of manage those events through the system.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And then one question that was, are all the fields required when setting up a claim, or do they get to customize that?
They are not required. You can enter in as much or as little information as you have. And for customizations, if you're interested in customizations, let us know what those customizations would be, and we can look into that for sure.
And will there be a document type added for accident pictures, or will the client work with their AM to add that document and file type?
That's a great question. Yep, you would work with your account manager. You can set up different categories and file type options within the system, just to make sure that you have the appropriate file types that you would want to upload, and you can go right in there and upload those as soon as your account manager gets those added for you. And then if you wanted to add permissions around document types or categories, you can do that as well.
Cool. And then on driver pulse, a couple of questions is, can we customize who pulse requests are sent to? So they're saying like repair estimates that come from fleet managers and other requests come from a different type of manager. Is that possible?
I believe so. So if I understand the question correctly, if you go into the documents, any user that has access to the system can go into documents and request documents. So if you have a fleet manager that wants to request the accident scene photos, and maybe you have a claims person that wants to ask for a copy of the police report or something like that, as long as those users have access to the dashboard and they can get to the documents tab, they're able to send those requests through Pulse for those.
Thank you. So when you receive employment verifications for the driver, will we be able to send the information if they had an accident, like the photos and everything? Will that be able to be linked?
The photos are not linked to the employment verifications. It does pull those over, so whenever you enter in a stored response, it pulls over the accident information, so you don't have to rekey that information, but it does not link the photos or the documents to that employment verification.
There is a question here about, have we worked with Fleet Chaser, and a question about Bendix, and we have not worked with Fleet Chaser or Bendix yet, but we will have conversations with them. Is safety management information included in the report wizard?
It isn't initially, but it will be something that you'll be able to customize reportings for. You do have access to, in safety management, the points report as well as the accident registry. There you're able to go in and run those reports, and you'll be able to see all of your accidents that have been logged, and then you can also see all of your points for your drivers across the fleet. So this does work well with the two other reports that are in safety management to be able to access that information through the accident registry and also the driver points report that are available today.
Awesome. And is the termination option for storing a response available outside of the safety management tool?
That's a great question. It will be very soon. So if you are a provider and you're not using safety management, coming in the next following weeks, if you move a driver to terminate it, it will also allow you to create a stored response. It just won't pull over any accident information, but it will populate the driver's name and information, so you can create that stored response right in Express.
Awesome. A question about Samba Safety. We do have an integration with Samba Safety. A question, if you do a training for a group of drivers, are you able to bulk upload training? And yes, you can bulk assign a training to a group of drivers. And yes, just confirming everything was recorded, and you will get a copy of this webinar in your inbox. Where are the training lessons coming from? Training, we have our own training library now. We have over 200 titles. We began creating them at the beginning of 2020. And so we've actually created our own proprietary content. So there's a question here about cargo claims, and you can upload and link that information the same on cargo claims and use that system really kind of the same way for cargo claims. Elizabeth, would you have anything to add there?
I would agree. Yes, you could, if you have a cargo claim, you could enter it in if it's under the driver, and then you could kind of manage that specific cargo claim through adding those documents and putting that information in, so it will show in the reporting and stuff.
Okay. Okay, we talked about integration.
I see a question of what if oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say, I see a question of what if a driver doesn't call, and that's kind of when we talked a little bit about being able to start an event as well. If you get a notification through CSA, or if you're using a telematics integration and you get a notification through that, then you can also start that immediately. So you can start those from those tools within the system as well. So if you're using CSA and you're working through all of your CSA events, you can go right into CSA, start that event, and it logs it and ties it to that driver so that you can start to work that. Or if it's a telematics and you have a telematics integration, then you can go ahead and start that process through telematics as well, as far as creating an accident, incident, or violation through either one of those avenues.
Awesome. And could all this be done with non-CDL drivers as well?
Yes, if you are, if you have your non-CDL drivers in the system and you wanted to track accidents, incidents, and violations for them, you absolutely could use it for non-drivers or non-CDL drivers.
Okay. I think, guys, we're going to ask me, does this claims process create a DOT accident register?
Yep, you can go into the safety management tool and you'll have access to the accident registry tool there. So you can pull over all of your accidents through the safety management tool.
All right. Okay, well, we had some really great questions. And as we mentioned, we will definitely, everybody will get a copy of this presentation. If we did not answer your question live, we will send it out. If you have questions about integrations and who we are integrated with, I'm going to put my email address in the chat, and I'm happy to answer any of those questions. And as Elizabeth said, for pricing and to get started, reach out to your advisor. And thank you, everybody, so much for all of your time today. We are really, really excited about this. Elizabeth, did we leave anything else out that we need to share?
I can't think of anything. We really appreciate your time today. And yeah, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys, and be safe.